Do it.
And we're live in three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day of Today in Quarantine. I am your host, Renee Cross, and this is my illustrious guest. You've known her before. She is Pastor Guadalupe Montour, a native
Woo! Hey,
of New
I
York.
almost raised the roof. Did you catch that?
I missed it, but
Like it's
I mean,
2005.
I'll
Mercy.
raise it. I'll raise it with you. It's all right. It's all right. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I personally am good. I'm a little confused with Mother Nature right now.
Oh boy.
Uh, I'm a little aggravated, a little frustrated. Um, I don't know what to do anymore. I planned barbecues and fire pits, and now I got to plan Christmas all over again. It's a little
I,
confusing.
I know. For those of you who don't know, I guess we'll just do our weather segment right now because we're talking about it. But it's snowing. There's about like an inch and a half or two on the ground. It's been snowing since about 12, and this is just why? Why? We don't know why,
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I don't understand it.
it's when will we ever understand? Never. That's the answer.
Never.
So,
So
Pastor
tell me,
God, what?
Renee.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna
Huh?
ask you, what have you done in quarantine today?
What have I done in quarantine? I woke up, was frustrated, had my worship, talked to the Lord, um, got on Zoom. I love Zoom. I don't, it's losing its luster. Had a couple meetings, but it's great to see people's faces. So I do enjoy that. And then I decided that I was going to make tofu scrambled eggs this morning.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that came out pretty okay. The
Good.
girls were not impressed. Uh, they threw on a little cheese and then it became edible. So,
Good.
and that's what my
Good.
husband's having for dinner. So, it was like two birds with one stone.
Nice, nice. Oh
Yeah.
man. Well, good. What else did you make today? I heard you made some interesting stuff for lunch.
I did. Well, I thank you for asking. I got to tell you, Renee, that one of the hardest parts of this quarantine, and this is like first world problems. So let's just call it what it is. This is first world problems. And my first world problem is that I don't know what to cook anymore. I'm out of ideas. I'm tired of eating carbs. I'm tired of eating fruit. I'm tired of, well, I'm not tired of eating fruit, but you understand it just becomes monotonous almost to eat. But today I made enchiladas.
Hey, hey.
And enchiladas, yes. And I try to make them healthy. They turned out not to be healthy anyway, but they were stuffed with spinach and mixed vegetables that were sauteed in a lot of butter. That's right. Vegan butter, but
Hey,
butter nonetheless, which is funny because then I added real cheese to it, but the butter was vegan. Uh,
For a while there, I was trying not to eat like dairy because I'm technically lactose intolerant. And you know what I'd do? I'd go to like Five Guys or something, or yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, can I get a burger but with no cheese? I'm like, all right, yeah, good job. And then I get a milkshake. So,
it's
so
okay.
it's okay. Yeah,
It happens here too. So I mean, what are you gonna do? But I ended up
exactly.
eating. I stuffed them. This is what I did: sautéed it, stuffed the corn tortillas with this mixture, added provolone and mozzarella strips. I was very scarce. I wasn't trying to overload it. Then I rolled them up, put them in the sauce, and then added shredded cheese on top of that. But I was very scarce with the cheese. It wasn't an overload of cheese. And I didn't know what the girls were gonna think, because I cook for an audience here. If I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't be cooking for an I'd probably be eating cereal. Um, and they really liked it. I thought that they were not gonna eat it because it was just a whole bunch of spinach and mixed vegetables. And you add a little cheese and it just changes the game. So it changed the game for me today.
True story. True story. All right, nice. Well, that sounds exciting. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Good.
How about you? What have you been doing today? Quarantining.
Well, Today in quarantine, I think I mentioned on yesterday's show that I sent out an email to my students who hadn't been participating in online learning. And so yesterday I spent most of the day fielding emails. Like literally, I'd be like, all right, okay, oh, I got to field. Oh, okay. And it was just like a ton of things. Today that slowed down quite a lot. But I did a lot of multitasking. I had a Zoom session with my fifth graders today that was incredible. I've been playing this game with kids all year. It's called Music Baseball, and they really get into it. They really enjoy playing it. And I played it with some of my older kids this week online, but there weren't too many kids in the group. There was like 6 kids in one group, so it was like 3 versus 3. Ooh, exciting! It wasn't all that great. But today I had like 12, and so it was super intense. And like the end of the game, it was like 21 to 25, and one team was missing a player, so it was up to me to score. And
That's a lot of pressure, Renee.
I know. And these fifth graders they're like, okay, Miss Cross, it's up to you. And so I played something, and then I asked a kid who played the same instrument. I was like, hey, so what do you think? Did I get a home run, or did I mess up? And she was like, I think you're on second base. And I was like, absolutely not. That was a great playthrough. And so I grabbed a coin and I was like, I'm gonna flip the coin for this decision. If it lands on heads, we won. And if it lands on heads, then we tied. And if it lands on tails, then you guys won. And you know what? Landed on heads.
Okay.
So take that, fifth grade.
I'm pretty sure some of your students are mad at you. Somehow this is rigged.
Oh, for sure. There were angry comments in the Zoom chat. One kid kept unmuting himself and then screaming, and I was like, mute. And then he would unmute, and I was like, mute. And I was like, I'm kicking you out. And I sent him to the waiting room. And then he went on Google Classroom, and he was like, this is not over until it's over. I was like, all right, buddy.
Oh my goodness.
It was super
These
intense.
Poor kids, they have a lot of aggression. They don't know what else to do. They gotta put it on somebody.
He's gonna take it out on his trombone. That's all right. Yeah, right? But actually,
music, the stress reliever of quarantine.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to make this be for my students. That's what we're as a district are trying to do. Like music should not be like one of those things. It's like, oh no, I've got to turn in, but at least something that they can keep doing and just kind of be like, I'll take a break from math, do some music, enjoy it.
Yeah. So. You know what I was seeing today? Kind of these ratios, just on Facebook, these ratios of recommended time per student per class. Kind of like how much time students should actually be on the screen participating in some classroom activity. And I think for my girls are 10 and 12, their maximum is about 200 minutes, something like 2 hours and something. It can't be 2, yeah, 2 hours and a half. They should be doing any kind of classwork online. And I think for the most part, that's where they are. But then they're still doing work like the rest of the day, sometimes they wake up pretty early to try to get work out of the way. So they are doing schoolwork usually around 8 o'clock, but there are some days where it's like 3 or 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And I'm like, maybe they're just pulling my leg and they're like playing video games or they're really just, doing schoolwork, hardcore. And that would be great. I would be proud of them, of course. But even for me, I'm like, no, get off your computer right now and stop doing schoolwork right now, because it's so much screen time.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of screen time. I'm doing a lot of screen time because it's just, I based on the amount of like emails and stuff that I'm doing, and I am a single person who basically lives by themselves. Like I have a roommate, but she's, she doesn't depend on me for anything.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how some teachers with like kids and animals are doing all of this. It blows my mind when I think about it. So if you're a teacher who's watching this, kudos to you. And if you're a teacher with children, also kudos to you. So way to go.
Yeah, it's really hard. I was in a meeting today. We were doing some interviews and in the middle of this interview, one of my daughters storms into my bedroom to tell on her sister because her sister has hit her. But not only does she tell me that she's been hit, but she proceeds to show me how she has been hit. So on me, she shows me how her sister hit her. I become the punching bag. So here I am during this interview with all these people on screen, and she's like jabbing me. So, you know, that's just everyday life now. Or literally, it's the same group of people that they're cooking. And because our fire detector is so extremely sensitive, all I think every time we've been on Zoom, my fire alarm has gone off. And I'm just like, oh, it's just my kids cooking. It's no big deal. You know, but it's so loud.
I mean, my roommate and I have taken to, we actually, don't tell Union, we took our fire thing and we put it further away from the kitchen because there's like little particles of food trapped under the stove, and so it burns every time you turn something on high, and it's just terrible. Oh boy. Well, today I just wanted to talk briefly about something that's happening across the nation. Clearly, coronavirus is taking over all of our conversations, all of everything. And I think one thing that we're not doing really well is that we're not changing because of it. We're like, oh yeah, we will we'll modify, but we won't change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's my example. Let me tell you a little bit more about this. Colleges across the nation have essentially closed campus. Students are back at home and doing what they have to do. One of these colleges is Southern University. And Southern University, Southern Adventist University, which has several, at least 1,000 or so students. I'm not really sure their student population, but somewhere around there. A couple weeks ago, after this whole shutdown thing, another university announced their policy, or that their grading policy has changed. And they switched, and an A used to be about a 90 or 91, and they switched it down to an 85%. And so they've changed their grading scale so that it's a little bit easier for students to keep their GPA. Because in these times of COVID-19, people are stressed, and they're not just stressed because they're doing work, but they're stressed because there's literally a global pandemic going on. You could have it, your parents could have it, your siblings could have it, anybody could have it, and it's a stressful situation. So Southern University's campus did not do that. They did not change their grading scale. And so the students of Southern signed a petition. About 1,000 students signed this petition for Southern to change their grading scale to be similar to that of this other university. I should also mention that many other universities around the nation have switched to a pass-fail system, so that students don't have to worry as much about their GPA. Harvard University has done this, and they're just looking out for the well-being of their students. When Southern students signed this petition, over 1,000 of them signed this petition, it was denied by the administration. And it's been sort of a viral moment, happening as of this week, because students are asking Southern. The president of the campus, the student president, wrote an open letter to the administration expressing how he is working currently in an Amazon warehouse, asking for he's trying to make money for himself to survive, but he's also trying to send money to his family in Peru, and it's just a stressful time for him. And this is, the president of the college, or the president of the student association in the college. And so this is not just things happening to one person, but it's a lot of stress. Additionally, on top of this, and that's just Southern University, and there's a lot of other universities who haven't changed their grading policies yet because they don't deem it necessary, apparently. But on top of this, many people around the country have received a stimulus check from the government. And the way the stimulus check works, if you haven't heard or don't know, is that everybody who files as an independent receives a stimulus check of about $1,200. And if you have children under the age of 16 or 17, can't remember which one it is, um, those you as their parent receive a stimulus check for $500 per child. Now that sounds like a
Mhm.
great idea, right? However, there's
Yeah,
this little,
fabulous.
yeah, great, I can't wait to. I haven't gotten my stimulus check yet, but I can't wait to. But there's this little gap of people who are not covered by this. Now, if you are over the age of 17, um, and you're in college, hmm, you've probably in the past not filed independently because your parents are um, your parents are probably helping you pay for college, or you're asking them to help you and co-sign on your loans and stuff. So
Mhm.
you're probably not independent, and so you're not dependent. And so as a college student, many college students are finding that they are not going to get any money from the stimulus check. Many college students are working to were working on campus to pay off their student loans. Many college students are not getting a refund from their college because they're off campus. Many college
Yeah.
students are just struggling financially right now. And so college students are probably taking the worst of this coronavirus. Aside from the people, who are dying, I think college students are on the next on the list because they also have that possibility of death at their front door. They have no financial compensation for the struggles they're going through. They're suffering because of their grades, and they're having to potentially take care of younger siblings, nieces, nephews,
Mhm.
their parents potentially. And if any of them get sick, or any people in their family get sick, then college students are probably the next person in line to take care of
Yeah,
the
to be
family.
caretakers, whether financially or physically. Yeah, absolutely. This is, when we live in a bubble, and it's so much easier now to live in a bubble, specifically your own bubble, because we're in quarantine. And sometimes we forget that the people on the other side of the screens, on the other side of the paperwork, have lives that extend beyond themselves as well. They have family members, they have people that depend on them, even though they're 18, 19, 22, the people that depend on them. So yeah, I mean, just in my conversations with the young adults here from the school that we're associated with, there's a lot of struggle. The transition for many, depending on the kind of learners they are, is very difficult, to move everything online. And then the idea that they're just home twiddling their thumbs, is reason enough for teachers to add on more work. At the same time, though, I want to cut teachers slack because this is their first time too.
It's true.
Most of
It's
them
true.
weren't around for the 1918 flu pandemic. They don't know how to respond to either. So I think for the most part, both sides are responding in extremes. One side wants to be considered, okay, I can still be a professional and do my job extra well,
Hmm.
by continuing to maintain this level of coursework, uh, but forgetting the human element behind it all. So it really is a travesty for America, because this is going to have a longer impact. Once the pandemic is done, hopefully it's soon. But there have been articles and conversations that the quarantine might go on for 2 years, an additional 2 years. And just some of the conversations we've been having in our private conversations about, people coming to their rope's end, with the feelings of isolation, and you know people who are already having difficulty when there was no isolation, people who didn't have support systems definitely don't have support systems. So it really can be a daunting situation for many people. Financial distress, health distress. I have so many friends, specifically because I'm from the New England area, and so are you actually.
Yep.
um, I know so many people who have lost loved ones already. I have family members who have passed away to COVID. So and it's not an outbreak here yet in Nebraska. So
Hmm.
again, this idea that it's happening over there and it's not impacting me is untrue. It's impacting people here too. People are at a loss. People are suffering. Maybe just because you're not suffering doesn't mean they're not suffering, but there is
Exactly.
suffering taking place. And as a body of Christ, when the pinky is hurt, the rest of the body is hurt too. So even if you think that person is a pinky, you better suffer with them, bro. That's what the Lord is calling us to.
Yep. Even if you don't think you need your appendix, it still hurts to take it out.
Well, that's yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hurts.
Wow. Well, prayers to all the Southern students and all the universities, because being in administration is not an easy decision. It's not something easy. You just don't go like, oh, what do the students want? Yeah, that's what we'll do. They also have consequences that
Yeah.
they have to
Yeah.
consider that the students know nothing about. So I think in these unprecedented times, a word that has been overused in this last couple of months, we have to cut each other slack.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to cut each other slack and be forgiving and walk knowing that everyone is trying to do the best for everyone. Well, at least at the universities, people at the universities are not, they're not becoming billionaires or
Right.
enslaving a generation of people for years to come, unlike other things. But,
Yeah.
cut each other
Yeah.
slack, be merciful to one another.
Yep. 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 Well, if you know a college student, reach out to that college student. They would love it. They would love it. There are a couple comments on here. As the pandemic goes on longer, do you think that people will eventually just stop caring altogether and just disregard all caution? I think so. I think people are going to get fed up with staying at home, and they're just really going to just forget about it, and just go out, because I don't know if people can handle it for longer. You know?
Yeah. I think it depends on the place, because people in New York City are hunkering down because they've seen the reality of this disease. When you have truckloads of bodies being carried out and put it into cold trucks, the reality is more real. But when you are in more safer places like Nebraska per se, or other areas, you don't see its impact, so you don't really consider it. So I think it depends on how bad it gets where you are. It will depend
Yeah.
on whether or not you hunker down and are willing to suffer another month versus suffer 2 months, then try to go back to normal. And then, there's a rise in infection again, and then you have to hunker down again for 2 months. It really just depends on your ability to discipline yourself for the good of people.
Yeah, for the good of the cause. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, we never know. I mean, the future. I was just talking to somebody earlier, and um, they're just saying, yeah. I mean, if there's anything that is telling us, is that like we don't have control over anything.
Mhm.
And we have control over ourselves and our own actions, but it's not in our hands to stop a virus, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it is our responsibility, but like if I do my best and somebody else doesn't do their best, then it's not in my hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, but that's the thing. If we all became accountable to ourselves in the light of a community, then, basically stop being selfish. If we start thinking outward, scripture tells us to consider others better than ourselves. All of scripture, is about pointing people to look at the value of other people. So as Christians, at the least, at the very least, we should be looking at our brothers and our sisters as valuable as ourselves. Therefore, putting in the legwork to keep each other safe. Yeah, Andrew, I agree with you that people in most areas don't wear masks in public. I mean, some places, I think it was in New York City actually, that it's now mandatory to have a mask. They're going to give 3 days. They've given 3 days notice so people can start acquiring masks or coverings of some sort. But most people don't wear masks. Honestly, we were at Home Depot just yesterday picking up something that we ordered online, and it was like nothing happened. I think Home Depot and Lowe's is making a killing.
Sure.
There were so many people at Lowe's and Home Depot. I'm including me and my husband picking up something and getting something for their quarantining, honey-do list fulfillment. So yeah, I mean, I think, should we wear masks? Do masks work? Remember earlier on in the pandemic, everyone was like, masks don't work. They don't help. And you have to have a certain kind of mask. N95s, they don't have anymore. Just wear cloth. Cloth doesn't work. And now they're like, just use whatever. cover yourself with your bangs and just do something. So I don't know where it stands anymore. It's just, everything just keeps changing. But back to what Renee said, you got to do your best. Just do your best and be responsible for yourself.
Yeah. There's one question in here that we'll kind of wrap up with. But are there any words of hope in these dreary days? What are some ways to not start panicking over the reality of how close Jesus' coming is?
Yeah. You know what I always say about this? Before the pandemic, Jesus was still coming, right? Sometimes we want to, in 1918, Jesus was coming during the food pandemic. Over 100 years have passed, he still hasn't come, but you know what? He's still coming, because the reality is that if I die today, the next face I'm going to see is Jesus. So I don't have to actually wait for his second coming, because I'm going to see him one way or another, right?
Mhm.
But the hope that we have is that we don't have to know what's next. We just have to know that God's got whatever is next. He's in control. He's the author and finisher of my faith. He is the one who knows the end from the beginning. For me, that brings me a lot of peace, because I don't have to know. I don't have to carry the burden of knowing what's coming next. Because had I known that this pandemic was coming, that would have been a big burden. Had I known all the people that were going to die, my family members that died, that would have been a big burden. So God is big enough to carry the burden of knowing the future, and he's big enough to carry all of us through into the future and beyond. So that's what gives me hope.
Wise words, wise words. Thank you for that. Just kind of to wrap up our segment here, because I have to go and I have a piano lesson to teach in 3 minutes, because life just keeps going. But just a dad joke to kind of sum up our episode today. Pastor Guad, did you hear about the monkeys who shared an Amazon account?
No.
They were primates.
That was a serious dad joke. That was a serious dad joke.
Yeah. And
just as very hardcore.
And just as a PSA to everybody out there, if you're the person who took my selfie stick, you need to take a long look at yourself.
That's a good one. So I feel like someone discovered that joke while they were holding a selfie stick. Like it just kind of came to them.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. That's how I get my best jokes. For sure. Oh boy. Okay. Well, everybody, have a great day. Stay safe, stay inside, wash your hands. And we'll see you tomorrow in quarantine for another episode of Today in Quarantine. By the way, this is episode 28, which means we've been doing this for 4 weeks, which is absolutely maddening. But here we are, 4 weeks later. Everybody, have a great evening. Enjoy. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.